531 VI.
It is 7:36. This is Pacific Mornings. Brilliant to have your company this Thursday. Hope you're staying dry in these wet and windy conditions right across the country. Do make sure to drive to the conditions and watch your following distances. All right, in just under a month, just over 150 young people will travel to Wellington to participate in Youth Parliament. Now, today we speak to Youth MP for Jenny Salesa, Tyler Oroanu, about the upcoming event, as well as what he's been up to on the ground in his community. He joins me now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Hey, look, let's start perhaps with your journey and the sense of how you came to be a youth MP, eh?
Yeah, I volunteered for Jenny during the last election and got to know some of her team, but also a really nice group of mostly young volunteers. And I've always been like an eternal politics nerd. So by the end of the campaign, there were quite a few people encouraging me to put my hand up when applications came around for Youth Parliament. I wasn't convinced I was going to get it. But I always wanted the chance to kind of be a voice for young people in Pāmiwa Tāhuhu.
Indeed, it's very exciting indeed. With that in mind, though, I mean, what's drawn you into politics, which can often seem like a scary place, as highlighted in the book I'm reading at the moment, Jacinda Ardern? What on earth compelled you to be like, I actually want to be part of this?
Probably COVID. For some reason, when that hit and everybody was stuck at home, I had nothing better to do than just read the news and get real into New Zealand politics and also watching the politics of other countries. But it is really scary sometimes. But my opinion has always been that if I'm not going to do it, I don't know who else will.
Yeah, and that's an absolute nice way of putting it. I mean, give us a sense of how young you are to be interested in politics.
Gosh, that's quite the question. I've been interested in politics for a long time, and it's quite daunting because there's not many young people in politics. So when you kind of go into policy spaces, you're usually bringing the average age down quite a lot.
Totally.
But you're sort of still expected to know everything.
Yeah.
And when you're a young person, most of the time you don't have the time or the capacity yet.
Definitely. Here's another inevitable question for you. Why have you decided to perhaps, be a youth MP for Jenny and the Labour Party? What's compelling to you about Labour?
Quite a lot of things. I don't always fully agree with every kind of policy that the party does, but at the end of the day, I always know, and my family also always knows, that Labour is sort of the party for Pacific people. They've got a very long history and probably a very long future of standing up for and representing our Pacific people, and that's always drawn me to them.
And what's your, getting very deep here, but what's your philosophy in life? And what I mean by that is, what do you value? And what are your values in life? As ultimately what we each person values is what drives us in our political motivations. So what do you care about?
I care a lot about Pacific people and a lot about young people in general, but especially young Pacific people. And that very much being a voice for them has driven me through a lot of different things, different policy events, through politics in general, and also through high school when I was a prefect and doing all sorts of different things. And all of that kind of, I guess, manifests in a value of, I want to lead by doing stuff. I don't like to be an armchair leader.
Yeah, totally. That's a nice way of putting it. With that in mind, I suppose, since you've been in the role, give us a sense of what actually a youth MP does and what you've been up to in the community, perhaps.
Quite a bit. So when Just before we officially became youth MPs, it was Anzac Day. So I went out to the dawn service at the Domain and then managed to make my way out to Otahuhu and Papatoetoe for the morning services there, which was so nice.
Awesome.
As well as we've been connecting quite a lot with the other Pacifica youth MPs and also the Auckland-based MPs as youth MPs as well. I haven't been able to do quite as much as I wanted to, just because a uni timetable is really restricting. But I've done my best to make up for that by going to a lot of different protests
Yeah.
over the last couple of months,
No, that's good.
and there have been plenty.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, and that kind of leads naturally into the next question for me. I mean, give me your sense or a pulse check on what you make of this current coalition government. I mean, they inevitably get themselves into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. What do you make of the current state?
It's If it wasn't so funny, we would probably all be pretty sad. Sometimes they've it's weaponized incompetence sometimes, especially when we look at what Chris Bishop was doing at the Aotearoa Music Awards. That was just it's quite baffling to think that these are the people making big decisions for us.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Hey, look, I mean, why do you think, and I just want to pick up on a comment that you made, why do you think Pacific people are naturally drawn to the Labour Party, or at least you and your family? Why are you drawn to it?
I think because the Labour Party, you can see yourself actively in the party, whether it's through the MPs or through presence in your communities or just through the policies they make. And as a member of the Labour Party, when you go into those spaces, you can tell that this is where you're meant to be. This is where, you can say what you want and you'll be listened to and people will take that on board. And I don't know if that exists in quite the same way in any other party on either side of the aisle.
What do you think of, we just had Labour MP Tange Utikere on just before you talking about the lack of Pacific representation in the current coalition government. What do you think of that? And do you think that is a symptom of the policies that those parties push?
100%. It's If you're not pushing Pacific friendly policies, if instead you're actively bashing down on Pacific people, it's going to be really hard to try and convince any of them to want to run for your party.
Yeah.
Especially, but also they don't put anybody in sort of safer seats for their party, I guess.
Yeah.
They had a handful of people in seats like Mangere, but let's be realistic, that's not going to go blue for a long time. But yeah, a lack of Pacific friendly policies is never going to bring anybody on board.
I'm keen to get your idea or your thoughts on this. Obviously, and you mentioned it, Mangere, for example, is a very safe red seat. And, where Jenny represents, safe as can be. Manurewa with Arena Williams, safe as can be. I suppose the point I'm trying to make, though, if you go along, for example, into Manurewa at the moment, it is really sad to see in terms of people that have slipped through society. Why do you think people in areas such as that continue to vote red when the outcomes in that area aren't that great?
Quite a good question. Sometimes it might be the devil you know, the devil you don't.
Yeah, that's good.
Under a Labour government, you tend to at least get something out of them. Under a national government, not only do you not get anything, you actively move backwards, and then they actively blame you for moving backwards.
Yeah.
And people don't like that.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Good head on your shoulders. All right. Well, look, I want to get your sense on the recent budget announcement. What did you make of it?
I watched it live with some of my friends in uni, and like I said before, if it wasn't so funny, we would have all been really sad. I wrote down a handful of things. The huge lack of Pacific funding, especially in healthcare and education. There were big projects for other hospitals around the country. we watched it live. I didn't hear any mention of Middlemore Hospital.
Hmm.
Would have been nice to get them a little bit of extra funding because they desperately need it.
Yeah,
Um, KiwiSaver contributions, cutting that in half.
totally.
Goodbye retirement money. And then probably the biggest one is tens of billions of dollars lost out of pay equity.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, again, what are your thoughts on the government trying to ban social media for those under 16?
That's not going to work.
Mm,
Young people are way too smart. If you ban it, they'll find a way around.
mm.
They'll jump over, they'll go through it, they'll go under it, they'll find a way.
Hey, that sounds like a line directly from the ACT Party. That's what David Seymour's been saying. Sure, I'm an ACT Party supporter. No, I'm kidding. Look, I just want to get a global sense. Let's broaden the scope out of New Zealand now. I mean, headlines across the globe at the moment show that politics is incredibly volatile. Let's take a look at the Trump administration, for example. Vladimir Putin over in Russia, Ukraine, even close to home in Australia at the moment. What do you make of politics at the moment? It has become a pretty unkind place again, has it not?
Yeah, it very much as the world in general moved quite quickly away from that COVID sense of let's all be one
Mm,
big global family.
mm,
And as a young person going through and watching everything that's happening right now, it's really scary and it's really confusing
mm-hmm,
because I study history at uni and we've been looking back at the history of America, at global history,
mm-hmm,
and you can see all of it happening again, what we've gone through during the mid 19th, 18th and 19th and 20th centuries.
mm,
And we can see what the decisions people made then, and they look so obvious to us now what they should have done,
mm.
but we're living in that moment now, and none of us know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's
So
yeah,
it's quite there's just a lot of confusion. Where do we go? What do we do?
indeed.
How do we stop it?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, look, let's just go back to the Youth Parliament event itself. What can we expect from you?
I've been lucky enough to have been given a slot in the general debate, which means I'll get a brief speech to the House. So not to toot my own horn so much, but expect a very loud voice. Um, I quite there's a decorum that you need in Parliament, and I don't fully intend to keep to it. I like to get I like to wear my heart out on my sleeve if I'm giving a big speech. I like to get quite loud. I like to sort of put it in people's faces because, in my opinion, that's the best way to get them to listen.
Indeed. Hey, look, before I let you go, any final comments you'd like to make, perhaps?
Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I got a message from my mum when I told her I was doing this interview, and she asked for me to shout out our family.
Sure,
So
go for it.
I guess shout out to, oh gosh, which last names do I go with? Um, Oroanu, Owaiti, Toparia, Palale families on both sides of my family. I mean, they're pretty much the reason that I was able to volunteer and become a youth MP, so I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for any of them.
Family unit's so important, isn't it? Can I just get a bit of a sense? Talk to me about, just before you go, your heritage. Where are you from?
So I'm of Samoan and Cook Island descent, and I don't know a lot about my Samoan side, but on my Cook Island side, we're from Ivirua in Mangaya in the
Nice.
Cooks.
Nice. Very good indeed. Oh, well, it's nice, always nice to have another Cook Islander on. I'm Cook Islander myself. I'm from Aotearoa. So there we go. I'm going to be waving the flag and I'll be watching from the sidelines as your career goes up. So do you want to be in politics going forward? Is this it for you? Or are you merely just dipping your toe and checking it out?
And to get fully involved in politics.
Awesome. Well, look, it would be nice to see more Cook Island representation in that house, that's for sure. That is Tyler Oroanu. Thank you so much for your time this morning and all the best as well. I'll be keeping a close eye.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to Pacific Morning.